quilty friend, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and I'm wearing my AccuQuilt Go shirt today, which means that we must be playing with the AccuQuilt Go. And yes, so let's get started. Alright friends, today we are making another bag with the boxed bag to die set that I designed with AccuQuilt. So excited, we are doing another one of the free patterns from the AccuQuilt website. It's a pattern that I wrote. This is called the Fat Quarter Grocery Tote. It is super easy to make. You are going to want to make so many of these. They are so handy, so useful to throw just about anything in. I can't wait to make myself stacks and stacks of these. And they use up all those fat quarters that you have left over from fat quarter bundle projects where you had those like kind of orphaned, left alone fat quarters. Boom, done. Make yourself a fat quarter grocery tote. So what you need to start with are 4 fat quarters. By the way, this is a free pattern that you can download on the AccuQuilt website. I'll have a link down below in the description so you can grab that free pattern. So you are going to need 4 fat quarters total, and you're going to trim them up to 18 by 20 inches. If your fat quarter is totally skewy and you end up getting a 16 by 18 out of it, that's fine. Just as long as all 4 of your pieces are the same size, you can make this a little smaller and you'll be fine. You'll just have a little bit smaller of a grocery tote. No big deal. You are also going to need 32 inches of webbing cut into 2 16-inch pieces. So we have that here. And you need the AccuQuilt Go 2-die set, the boxed bag dies. That's it, really. Sewing machine, go. Let's go. So this 2-die set includes the curves, which we're actually not going to be using for this project, but are great for so many things. And it includes the box corner and the darted corner dies. We're going to be using the boxed corner for this, so that's our box corner right there. And because of the size of this die, it'll fit in the Go Me, the Go, and the Go Big. So today we're using our Go machine for this project, and we have our 4 pieces of fabric. So let me go ahead and open up my Go machine. Here we go. Ha ha ha. That was a pun. So for this project, the 20-inch length is the top and bottom, and the 18-inch length, so the shorter length, is the sides. This is perfect for directional fabrics, so that your directional fabrics are facing the right way. And I'm going to line up all 4 corners. If I can do it on both sides, great. If I can't, no big deal. Now we can cut multiple layers at once through the AccuQuilt die. So we're going to cut all 4 layers at once. I'm going to set my die right here. And we are cutting a 3-inch box corner, I believe. Let me double check, because you never know if I remember. Yep, we're cutting a 3-inch box corner. So on this box corner die, we're going to find the 3 here and the 3 here. Most of our fabric is going to be off the edge of the die, which is not what we normally do with AccuQuilt dies. Normally with AccuQuilt dies, our fabric is mostly on the die, but here, just what we cut off is staying on the die. So this is the fabric on the die. And now I'm going to hold this in place so that it doesn't shift, and just fold up this extra fabric so that it's going to travel alongside the die and out of the way. So double check that nothing shifted. I got a little bit of shift. There we go. It's lined up with the 3 here and the 3 here. So we're good. I'm going to put my mat on top. Don't let it shift. There we go. And now I'm going to run it through the machine. Again, hold everything in place. Now, if it shifts a little bit, especially with this really simple fat quarter grocery tote, no big deal. You can pull it all through the other side. And now you can already see it's pulling right off. It cut that 3-inch square off for us on all 4 layers. And there are our box corners. So let me make sure that I'm grabbing the correct other side. Yes, I am. I'm gonna line these all up because of course they shifted again, no big deal. And then once it makes it through, I can actually just pull it right back. My box corner is cut. You can see I cut off those 3-inch squares. Done. All right, we are done with the dies and with the machine. I have my box corners cut out of the bottom corners of my fat quarter tote. So now we need to actually stitch up our box corners, and that's super easy to do. Let's go ahead and tuck this out of the way. So the way that we stitch our box corners is one piece of fabric at a time. We're going to take the fabric, bring it right sides together so that we're folding this box corner in half on the diagonal. See that? And then we're just going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. At our fold, we're going to go back and forth, stitch all the way to the end, and then just for security you can go back and forth at the bottom. But if you forget to go back and forth at the bottom, it's not a big deal. If you forget to go back and forth at the top, it is a big deal, and that's going to be a problem. We're going to bring this over to the sewing machine. So I don't have my 1/4 inch foot on here. I think I want my 1/4 inch foot for this project, so I'm just going to switch out that foot real quick. There we go. Line this back up. Stitch, back, stitch. And then we can chain piece these. We can just keep sewing all of them one after the other after the other. All right, I'm going to stitch my 4th one, and then I'm going to clip these apart and then stitch all 4 box corners on the other side. So that total of 8 box corners, which is all of them, are stitched in this way. Okay, we have all 8 of our box corners stitched, and we're just going to clip these apart. And now if you haven't already decided which 2 are going to be the outside of your bag and which 2 are going to be the inside of your bag, now is the time. I think I'm going to pick the darker 2 as the outside, the lighter 2 as the inside. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret, which is this bag is fully reversible. So as long as you're okay with these 2 being both either the outside or the inside, and these 2 both being together as either the outside or the inside, you're fine. So fully reversible makes it super easy. We're going to take, in this case, this is the 2 inside pieces, and put them right sides together. So here we go. I have my 2 boxed corners that I'm lining up together. Let me move this other fabric so this makes a little more sense. I'm going to flip this around so that the box corner sides are closer to me. So these are just my rectangles of fabric, my 2 inside fat quarters, and I'm going to take these 2 box corners, putting the seams in opposite directions. It doesn't matter which one's going which direction, we just want them in opposite directions. And I'm putting a pin right there. Same on the other side, opposite directions, putting a pin right there. Now for this lining piece, we're going to sew and then leave a gap here in the middle, and then sew around. So we're going to sew up to here, leave a gap, and then sew around. Boom. Done. For our lining, for the outside, which I'll go ahead and pin at the same time, I've got my same 2 pieces, box corners at the bottom. I'm going to pin it the exact same way, but with this one, we're going to sew from the top all the way around 3 sides. So we're going to leave that top edge open, but from one top corner, we're going to sew down the side, the bottom, and up the other side. So let me just pin these 2 bottom corners real quick. Now you can add more pins if you like to secure it. just at a minimum, you want to put the pins here at these box corners to keep those lined up. But if you do more pins, less pin, well, not less pins, but if you do more pins, you totally can. You're welcome to add more pins. This is not a ton of fabric, so I'm just going to go with the 2 pins. Okay. So 1/4 inch seam, again, at the very beginning, you can go back and forth to lock your stitches if you want. So let's go ahead and do that. If you skip this step, that's okay. So forward, back, forward, that locks our stitches. And then 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down this edge. When we get to our boxed corner, that's our kind of 3D element. That's what makes this bag 3D. It actually just lays flat. So even though we are doing 3D sewing, there is no weird 3D manipulation that we have to do at this point, which is awesome. All right, this is my lining, so I'm going to sew past that box corner a little bit, and then I'm going to cut my thread. Now sometimes I forget to leave myself this hole, and this hole is for turning everything right side out later. So if you are like me and you forget to leave yourself that hole for turning, no big deal. We can make that hole with a seam ripper later. It's totally fine. It's just if you remember it now, then you don't have to do it later with a seam ripper. Now some people also will leave the hole in the side rather than in the bottom. So if you made it around your second box corner and say, oh no, this is my lining, I forgot to leave that hole, then leave it here. As long as you have a good like 4 inches or so of stitching at the top, totally fine. You can put your hole in the side instead. All right, so we've gone around 3 sides, leaving our hole at the bottom. Oh, I didn't do my back and forth at the top edge. It'll be fine. Now I'm just going to sew around the 3 sides of my outside. And again, this is a fully written and illustrated pattern that's totally free on the AccuQuilt website. So you can totally download this pattern and follow along with the pattern instructions if you're a written instructions person versus a verbal instructions over video person. And if you just want to see it both ways, because that helps it make sense, you can totally do that as well. Also, I just like having written pattern instructions. There's just something about having that printout for me to refer to. And I find it's easier to refer to a quick printout. Like if I've made a bunch of these and then, you know, in 6 months I'm going to go make some more as like gifts for friends or just like to have in the trunk of my car, I'll refer to the written instructions rather than having to go dig up a video from forever ago. That's just easier for me, but the video will stay up. So this video is not going anywhere. You can still refer to this video months and months from now, years from now, it'll still be here. All right, and then if I remember, just lock my stitches at the end. So we are measuring in 6 inches from each side. In the instructions, it says to do that before sewing the box corners. I'm doing it after. It's fine either way. This is our mark for adding our handles so that our handles are evenly placed. This pen doesn't want to work. There we go. 6 inches from each side. 2, 4, 6. Did I do that right? Yep. And that's just for our handle pieces. Now we're going to place our inside and outside right sides together, which means one of them has to go right side out. And then we're going to take it and put it inside. So one inside the other, they're both right sides together. Okay, we're going to take our sides and pin our sides. So these are just our side seams, and we're putting a pin in the side seams. One side seam one direction, the other side seam the other direction, and then just a pin to match up those sides. Y'all, we are already almost done with this. This is so quick. I love how quick and easy these are to make. I need to make a whole stack of them. Because they're just the, they're just the perfect size for a grocery bag. Now we're gonna put in our handles. The handles are pre-made webbing that I just purchased at the store. You can make your own handles if you want. AccuQuilt has all kinds of really great strip dies that you can make your own handles. I like these. I just think they're sturdy. They're easy, especially when we're doing a project like this that's just, you know, our leftover fat quarters from other projects. I like something that's just quick and easy. And then I'm going to line it up with that line that we made. And I like to stick out my handle a little bit, just because I think it catches better when sewing if it sticks out like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch. And you don't lose a ton of the handle, but I just feel like it's more secure in there. So let me lay this flat. Careful not to get a twist in your handle if you can help it. If there is a twist in your handle, the person bagging your groceries probably will never notice. It'll be fine. But this grocery tote does not have to be limited to groceries. This grocery tote would be great for hauling around sewing supplies, putting projects in. This could be great to bring to the fabric store. These totes are seriously like one of the handiest things. Okay. Where are my 6-inch marks on? There we are. 6-inch mark here. Lay this flat. And if you are not trying to do this on camera so that everyone can see what you're doing, it really is a lot easier, I promise. You just want to make sure that, see how this is at an angle right there? I don't know if you can see that very well. You want to just bring it so that it is straight. And that's why I use 2 pins when I do this, to try to get that straight. I also actually came up with a set of purse handle pins that helps with this process as well. So I'll definitely be using my purse handle pins when I make more of these bags. Okay. Okay, I have my top pinned all the way around, and in the process I pinned my handles in. So you just want to make sure that you haven't pinned more than just the 2 layers together. You still have the opening in your bag just like this. And now we're going to sew all the way around. I find when sewing all the way around, it's handy to pop this front piece off of my little Baby Lock Jubilant here. Most machines will have something like that where you can pop that off, and that just makes it easier to get the fabric around, because now the fabric can kind of tuck under there like that, and it doesn't get in the way. Keeps everything smooth. And let's move my dies and my pattern. That gives me enough room behind there. And you can start at any spot, doesn't matter where. And we're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. When you get to a handle like this, because I have this guide on my foot, I'm a little careful because I have that handle sticking out. And then you don't want to stitch over your pins. It's not good for a machine. At my handles, I am going to go back and forth just to give it some extra security. Those handles are where a lot of the stress of the bag is going to go when you're carrying things. So we want to give it some extra security there. Once you've made it all the way to the beginning where you started stitching, we're going to stitch back and forth just to lock all those stitches, make sure there's no hole there, and clip the threads. And then we get to do my favorite part, which is we're going to turn it right side out. So reach in through that hole at the bottom, grab the bottom from the other side, and then the whole thing should slip right on through. All right, before we move on to our next step, I'm just going to go ahead and close up the hole already. That way that part is done. And the way that we close up the hole is that we, so that you can see it really well. So there's our hole. You can do this on an ironing board and press it with an iron. But we tuck in the seam allowance there. And then here I'm just going to finger press that really well. And so you can see on both sides the seam allowance is tucked in. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine. And about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge here, from the edge of the fabric, so that way we're catching both the seam allowance and the outer fabric. We're just going to stitch all those layers together right on the edge. Now you can hand stitch this if you don't want it to be visible, but this is crochet tote. We don't need to spend 45 minutes hand stitching a seam when we can spend 30 seconds machine stitching it and no one's ever going to see it. So we have this stitched closed. Oh, it looks like I missed some. Not a big deal. I'll just take it back over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch it again from the other side. There we go, no holes in this bag. Okay, so that's now been stitched shut. Cut any extra threads. Now I'm going to take the bag, and if you remember which side was your lining side, perfect. If not, you can repick what's a lining side and what's an outside. Now this bag is super floppy. We want to top stitch around that top edge. So you can take this to an iron or you can finger press here. And we're just grabbing this edge here and finger pressing. Now I want this, well, actually finger pressing is not going that bad. We'll see. I could go set up my iron here again, but it's a little bit extra work. I could walk over to my iron, but then I wouldn't be bringing the camera with me and you wouldn't be able to see. So let's finger press this. And the goal is to bring that seam all the way up to that top edge and then press. And pulling these handles out is a good start, and then pulling this seam out. And you would do the same thing with an iron, basically, that I'm doing with my fingers, which would be to, with an iron you'd heat set it, and here I'm setting it with just pressure, no heat. Wouldn't that be cool if I could turn my fingers into little irons and just have them just iron the fabric? That sounds really wild. Okay. Maybe I had some weird dreams last night if I'm thinking about iron fingers. Like literal fingers that are irons. Alright. So I have finger pressed that all the way around with normal fingers. And we're going to take it back over to the sewing machine. And this time we want to make sure that the handles are tucked on the outside so that we don't have any problems. And you can pick whatever seam allowance you want. In this case, I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch. It's a top stitch, it's not really a seam allowance. You can do 1/8 of an inch, either's fine. But we just want to have a clean top edge. That'll also help if this goes through the wash, that you have a clean top edge for after it goes through the wash of what's your top edge on your bag. And it'll keep it from being a big balloon. If you're going to wash them a lot, you can actually tack down the middle bottom. I'll show you how to do that. And that'll keep it from turning into any kind of balloon at all. And then each time we just want to make sure that our handles are on the outside so that we're not sewing our handles into the project. There we go, it made it all the way around. Cut my threads. When we sewed our handles on, we had extra stitching in there. You can go ahead and, if this is going to be a bag that's going to carry heavy things like milk rather than light things like cereal and crackers, you can go and do an extra zigzag stitch right here on these handles just to give them some extra security. This webbing, we want to make sure that it's not going to slip over time through these stitches. It's pretty secure here, but just to be safe, a zigzag stitch on top of here, not a bad idea. And then if you know this is going to be washed a lot and you want to make sure that it doesn't balloon out in the wash, which is not a big deal, but you can grab this bottom seam here and the bottom seam on the outside, line those up, and then just add a line of stitching here. Bring this over to the machine and add a line of stitching, and that'll keep the lining inside the bag so you don't have a loose lining that's going to come loose. You could do it, you can tack on the corners if you prefer, but you can tack the lining into the bag if you want to keep it from ballooning in the wash. It's not something I worry about, so I'm just going to leave mine be. But I like to give you all the options, let you know different ways that you can, yeah. But this, it's the perfect, it's lightweight, there's no interfacing at all. It's just 4 fat quarters and some straps for handles. It's the perfect size to carry so many groceries. It's a little bit bigger than a standard grocery bag. But yeah, this is such a fun project. So that's the fat quarter grocery tote that you can make using the box bag die from AccuQuilt and things that you probably already have lying around. Friends, that's all I have for you today, but make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button. And friends, I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.